So thanks for joining this is the Retail and Consumer Goods Industry Forum session. Thank you for all joining us today. How's the conference been so far? Pretty good? Yeah, good. Yeah, that's great. I was talking with a colleague and his first year here, and he's like, I felt like I was going to the Super Bowl. Like there's an energy, and he's talked about, I went to other conferences about vendors and everything, but what I've loved, I've been at Databricks now for about a little over 6 years, it's about the people, right? It's about the problems, about the engagement, talking about things. It's such a unique opportunity that we have. I don't know of any other conference where you come together and you hear so many other companies opening up about the challenges that they had in doing data and AI, opening up and sharing that with other companies, including their competitors. So thank you all for coming, for participating. You're what makes this conference great. We are going to use the keyboard to advance. Live demos. I want to thank our partners real briefly. Accenture and AWS are great partners of ours to work with. Obviously, if you've been downstairs, you've seen a lot of our other partners. Our partner ecosystem, I think, is something that's I'm especially appreciative of because, listen, this is a hard space. And they bring a lot of expertise that helps our customers accelerate their journeys. And so I'm very thankful for them. They're also very actively involved in supporting and sponsoring events like this. I'm Rob Saker. If you haven't met me before, come say hi. We'll have an event, a reception right after this session here. Everybody see the Trek bike and the Rivian thing outside. We're going to have a reception there for industry. Come mingle, network with other folks there. Say hi to me and others there. We have a panel today with great lineups, and I'll let Matt introduce them more later on as we get to that panel session here. And then just real quickly, I want to recognize a few partners of ours. First of all, Tradence has been a great partner of ours for, 6 years. I remember when Tradence had 16 people working on Databricks, and I think in the retail space, and I think they now said they have around 2,000. And they're doing really great work with a lot of customers of ours. And we have an amazing partner ecosystem with SIs. They're investing in building champions and experts in the space there. So congratulations, Tradence. I also want to call out High Touch. So High Touch is another one of these firms that Tejas is their CEO, or co-CEO, and we go and challenge them. And they're a built-on CDP platform. And I don't know many software companies where we go to them and say, do better, do these things, deliver greater value to the customer, and they embrace it, and they want to collaborate. And we're seeing so much great success. I think well over 100 customers that we're actually doing work together with High Touch. So congratulations, Tradence and High Touch, for winning the award recognition. They got their trophies or awards last night, but well earned. Okay, get your phones out real quick. I've got a little bit of a favor to ask everybody. So we started doing a little bit something different this year. And, I think we looked at what other technology companies were doing and saying, a lot of companies are trying to do too much. They're trying to boil the ocean. But in reality, in any industry, in any given year, there are probably 3 or 4 key imperative areas that are getting investment, that are also areas where data and AI can play a meaningful role in terms of delivering value to the organization. We prioritize around this. And so when you hear us talk in industry, when you hear us work with partners, when you see us this is the secret decoder ring you get in the cereal box, when you see partnerships that we announce, they're aligned to these because we think that these are the areas that you care about most. And we want to invest in these areas. So we think about within retail, it's around the idea of improving the customer experience. We think about retail media network, about composability with customer data platforms, agentic AI. We think it's resilient supply chain. How many people here had a heart attack about a month and a half ago when tariffs were announced and you had supply chain people there's a hand raise right there. And it's like, what do we mean? And how do I understand the implication of my supply network and where do I import and export and what can I do? And supply chain resiliency with inventory demand management, supplier collaboration, supply chain resiliency within that key area. We think it's employee productivity. the number 2 expense area in most of our organizations is employees. And how do we use AI to make them more effective? How do we do the same amount or more with less? And we're being challenged on this because we have margin challenges across the board with inflation and other areas. And it's in profitable volume growth. Interesting fact, if you look at the top 50 consumer goods companies over the past 5 years, does anybody know what percentage of those companies owe more than 50% of the revenue growth to price increases? I'll give you a hint, it's an easy number. It's all of them, right? Our customers, our consumers are tapped out, and we have to find different ways of achieving profitable growth. And we think that the best way to do that is with AI and understanding consumers. So this is where I need your help. Get your phones ready. Take the QR code. Let us know. Are these the right areas? Are there other areas? But take the survey. We're going to publish a blog about this with the findings, but I would love to hear from you. Are these the right areas? What's important to you? And by the way, if these aren't the right areas, we want to know because we want to be responsive. You see the partnerships that we announced with SAP. You see the partnerships that we announced with Circana for sharing data with other data providers. That's all a direct result of sessions like this at Summit where you've told us important things. But I want to take a different lens here today. So thank you in advance for your help with that survey. And I want to share something. One of those focus areas you saw before around customer experience. I think we're at this inflection point in the industry. And I was a dot-commer in the 90s. So I saw the wave of the internet. I saw what it meant for the transformation of industry. I saw the reluctance by leaders to embrace and adopt this. I also saw the potential. I see the same thing with AI, only amplified. The investment is earlier, the potential is more significant. And it's going to disrupt us if we're not prepared for it. So I took a trip. I'm pretty tan right now. I'm usually very reflective from the light, and I'm very mellow, which my team will tell you is very much not the norm. But I took a trip over the past 10 days, and I went out to Istanbul and Athens and had a great time. And you see some of these are actual pictures of me exploring around with my niece, and it was a really interesting experience. I'd never been to Istanbul or Athens before. And I went through, and the way we planned this was, it took me about 20 hours. Find the cities that we agreed upon. Find the time of year that we agreed upon. Like start identifying flights. Where do we want to stay? Did we want to stay in the old district? Or did we want to stay in some more of the modern areas in Bosphorus, on the Strait? What were the activities, events, and other things? It took us about 20 hours of work to get to an itinerary that we agreed upon. And I said, you know what? I wonder. And I went over to Perplexity. And I put the same things in. And I said, what's my level of spend? What are my interests? I'm a history fan. I love history. I love reading about it. I love experiencing culture. I love the serendipity of wandering back streets and finding new areas. And it came up in 15 minutes with a better itinerary than what I took 20 hours to build. And I think this is what we're facing right now, is that agentic commerce is going to disrupt all of our industries. And we're already starting to see this. If there would have been a buy option on this, I would have clicked that buy button. Because again, 15 minutes and it did a better job than I did manually. So I think, and we've done research on this, but I think within the next 5 years, 30% of all consumer journeys are going to be non-human. What does that mean? That means that if you are a retailer, if you are in travel, if you're any other QSR or any other type of firm, your consumers that are interacting with you will be agents acting on their behalf. And this has a potential to completely disrupt industries, right? It's going to disintermediate because it's going to take you yet another step away from that consumer. Now, you may think, well, this is a stretch. It's already happening. Amazon announced a service where they will shop at other e-commerce sites on your behalf. Now, they want to use it to gather information on competitive pricing and assortment, right? OpenAI announced this, Perplexity announced this. We're going to see more and more. What does this mean for us? The challenges I mentioned with consumer goods and other areas about achieving profitable volume growth, the way out of this is through customer intimacy. We can't continue to stuff the channel discount try to get efficiency. We have to get to growth. We have to get to profitable volume growth. The way that we get that is by better understanding our consumers, what their affinities are, their propensities are, where they live, develop products that resonate with them, and distribute them to where they live, and to take the inefficiency out of the channel there. You think about the customer experience area and all the different touch points that we have. Email promotions, mobile applications, other things, ad networks, retail media networks. A lot of retailers are looking at retail media network as a source of high growth, high margin revenue that's coming into the organization. Hit next again here. Now, the challenge is when you have an AI agent, the AI agent intersects with just one component of that. It's not intersecting with your promotional channels. It's not intersecting with ads or email or anything else. It's intersecting with the web. And how do we make sure that we're tailoring that information in a way that supports that? I took the same scenario. So I stayed at this great hotel in Istanbul, in the Golden Horn area. It was called the Occidental or the Oriental Occident Hotel. It's fantastic, like a world-class hotel. And yet I went after Perplexity, and what did it come up with search results? You see here, it's talking about the Four Seasons Hotel at Sultanahmet. Nowhere was the hotel that I stayed at, which is a fantastic hotel, one of the options. This is the challenge that our brands face. If you are not able to have that direct customer relationship or to tailor information in a way, you will be disrupted, you'll be disintermediated. It'll be the information that's available to those agents to interact with it. And you may think, well, this isn't that big of an issue right now. Listen, if you are a boomer, maybe it's not an issue for you. You're buying things the traditional ways. If you're a Gen Xer like me, somewhat of a factor. I'm an early adopter in some of these things. But let me tell you, millennials and Gen Z, they are aggressively adopting agentic commerce as a way to interact with brands. And the growth area for your brands, we want to invest in those because we want to take advantage of the demographic shifts with Gen Z, with millennials as they grow, as they have families, and capture them now. So it's now and it's future growth that's dependent on this. Retailers lost billions. Think about this. When we had before in the late 1990s and the 2000s, trade promotion spend was the typical way that we would drive as a consumer goods company, drive volume within stores. And then what came out? The FAANG companies, Facebook, Google, whatever. We saw a shift of promotional spend go from retail over to digital spend. It went away from retailers. And it was a way of driving volume within there. It was a more efficient way. But as an industry, we saw that erosion of money go outside of our industry. And now we're seeing retail media networks take that back with the promise of real full closed loop attribution. But this becomes disrupted as we do that for the same reasons I talked about before, where AI agents don't consume ads. They consume content. They're going to bypass that entire channel. So how can you, if you're preparing for this, how can you build for this? How can you prepare for this? I think there's a few things. The first is this idea of composability with customer data platforms. Increasing the aperture of your consumer information that you build to understand your consumers, to engage your consumers. The second area, you'll hear us start to talk a lot more about this over the coming months, but the idea of what we call ambient intelligence. Ambient intelligence is using AI to take signals that were previously inaccessible about why things are happening. Think about walking and seeing what's happening within the grocery store, what's set up, who's engaging within things, seeing what's traffic happening or other things about, it explains the context of why decisions are being made. And AI makes these unstructured data sources much more accessible for us to do analysis with. So ambient intelligence is taking this environmental signals to help us better understand why things are happening. We need to incorporate that in. We need to architect for agentic commerce. Similarly to how we had with the ad networks with DSPs and SSPs, and we had the brokering between, the communication between that, we will have similar protocols that come in place about agent-to-agent communication. We need to make sure that we have our side to prepare so we can interface with the ChatGPT, with the Perplexity, with the Amazon, with the Google, and the other future agents, and we're prepared with the information, with the architecture to support that. And then lastly, if we're not doing agentic AI use cases now, we need to do this because this is the only way that we're going to build efficiency and be prepared to take advantage of this. So we had announcements over the past month. We had marketing events over the past 24 hours here, this idea of composability of customer data platforms. This is not a Databricks specific concept, although we are definitely a proponent of it. A composable customer data platform is intended to bring all of your information and your touch points around consumers into one location, and then allow you to attach any modality of compute to activate against this. The benefit of this is it's not a monolithic approach to customer data platforms. In the past, you would buy a CDP to do a specific set of actions, and then you would complain about it 2 years later because it didn't do everything that you needed to do, and you'd have to rip and replace it and do something else. A composable architecture brings that information in, allows you to attach that functionality, to do ID resolution, to build your insights, to activate it. When you aren't satisfied with its ability to solve certain use cases, instead of ripping and replacing, you just add on. And you can just add functionality and modularity, but your view of the information is more holistic. How many of you have CDPs today where you have customer service information in there? Probably not a lot. Wouldn't that be important if I'm an apparel company and I want to know returns? Maybe certain brands run larger, and we want to make sure the recommendations reflect that. So it allows us to bring in a lot of other sources of information to have a better holistic view of the consumer. Within this, when we have this information, back to that composable architecture, we have the customer information, we have that wide aperture, we have ID resolution to get that unified view of the customer. We're developing the deep insights. Agentic commerce as a way to interface becomes just another touch point. It's no different than doing email, promotions, mobile engagement, personalization, and more. It's just a new persona that we want to engage with. We want to implement AI use cases in here, and I've actually got a chart within here that talks about what are the AI use cases and the value that they derive within. But I'll tell you that the TLDR in terms of agentic AI use cases is that you want to identify those use cases that have a meaningful impact in terms of delivering value with a minimal impact on business process right now. You don't want to rip and replace. We're not at the point of full automation. We're at the point of augmentation. But there's a lot of value. We have one customer that's reducing their marketing spend by about half, but they don't want to decrease the efficacy of this. And how are they doing this? Well, they're taking the processes that are typically manual. Think about if you are a consumer goods brand and you're trying to publish different websites and the content you have to create on product listings. You can automate this. You can not only automate it, you can do seasonality for different changes. You can do tailoring if certain retailers have certain customer bases that you want to emphasize different attributes of their products more. These are things that you can automate. It's not just the fact of getting content out. You can actually start to optimize the engagement within there. We're doing audience selection. We're doing a lot of other things. Invoice processing. How many of you have customer teams where you have dozens, if not hundreds of people who are manually taking invoices or documents from customers that you're manually processing and typing into SAP? I speak with customers all the time. These are the types of things where there's an impact. It's a minimal impact of the business process, but it's a meaningful impact in terms of the productivity. And these are things that we're seeing a lot of value in today. I'm going to skip through that. The use cases, this is a good photo slide. I saw a lot of cameras go up. So we think about building use cases for an agentic commerce future. And it really is a glide path. If I'm thinking about building this from scratch today, I know red doesn't show up in the backgrounds on these screens here, but the first part is that I want to go and really focus on building that foundation, that data foundation. I want to take all my different signals around consumer information. I want to bring that into one environment. I want to do identity resolution to link that together to get to one view of the customer. I want to leverage Unity Catalog. I'm on the World Economic Forum for Consumer Industries, and we talk a lot about data privacy. Another fun fact, GDPR, CCPA, there's two. Anybody know how many different data privacy regimes there are around the globe? Give me a rough number. You'll be sickened. It's over 200. So think about your compliance with data privacy regulations if you're trying to do business on a global scale and comply with all these things. You absolutely need to have that resolution of the consumer. You need to have unity catalogs to understand the full lineage of information and how it's being used within there. Then we start going into what's next. And I think this is where you start looking at building insights. This is the segmentation. This is where you start to do things with propensity, affinity type of modeling within there. And then you start getting into the really interesting areas with the agentic AI. And this is where, leading with, we get into productivity use cases that I was talking about. Now, the real kind of leading state of the art right now is using AI to do audience building for CDPs. So instead of manually building these, having AI go and determine the audience, have AI write the content, have AI determine the propensity moment on when to send information to consumers. We have one customer that did a 40% lift in incrementality by making these shifts. That's sort of state of the art right now in the industry. And then where it's going, I think in the next probably 12 to 18 months, is agentic commerce, where consumers are going to go in and they're going to start interacting with search and external services, ask questions of that, and let the AI do work on its behalf. So this is where we're seeing the glide path go. We have a lot of customers that are going within this space. If I were to say from a percentage perspective where our customers are right now, most of them are between 2 and 3 and there. So if you're trying to measure yourself, most within 2 and 3. I only have about 2 customers that I think on the far right now. But within the next 12 months, I expect that we'll probably have a couple dozen that are in that area. So use that to benchmark yourself. Anyway, so agentic commerce, I think, is going to radically change our industry over the next 3 years. We've got to be prepared for this. We've got to be prepared from a data perspective, got to be prepared from an AI, an agentic AI perspective, and how do we build these and implement these within our organizations. Along that note, I have one last slide here. Take information from this. These are brick builder solutions. So one of the things that we do, back to those industry outcome maps, is we work with our partners. And we say, we see needs and opportunities within these areas for solutions, proven solutions that they've deployed with other customers that are built on top of Databricks, that take full advantage of the Databricks platform, that run within your tenant, right? We want to do that legwork so that you're not the guinea pigs. The brick builder solutions are things that we have vetted. We vetted the architecture. We vetted to make sure it's taking advantage of Databricks. We vetted it to make sure that they're actually doing these other customers. And then that way, when you're looking for solutions, think of this as a way to accelerate your own roadmap, your own capabilities in these respective areas. That's it for me. I'm going to hand it over, though. Matt, you want to come up? We're going to have a panel here. This is Matt Jackson. Matt's my colleague who runs the North America sales business for retail consumer goods. Matt, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Rob. We're going to have the panelists go ahead and come up. We really appreciate everyone being here. Rob, thanks for those insights. Lots of good things that are happening in the industry, but also that are happening with each of your organizations. So today we're going to have an opportunity to hear from 3 of your colleagues from some great brands on how they're dealing with the changes that we're all going through right now, and how the physical world and the digital worlds are colliding. Data is at the heart of that, and how they are dealing with where they are on their journey, how they're helping their organizations take advantage of real-time data, to take advantage of AI, of ML. So we'll talk about that. So first, before we get going, maybe a quick introduction. We'll start with you, Amlan. Just give everyone a quick overview of who you are, what your role is at your company, and we'll go to you next, Paul.
Sure. Matt, firstly, thank you for having us on the panel today. Amlan Maitra. I lead our enterprise data team. It's a centralized organization. My remit is specifically around data engineering, data management, our data BI analytics platforms, operations, etc. Been with PepsiCo about 20 years, the last 10 or so in the world of data analytics. Prior to that, most of my background is in supply chain, and more specifically supply chain planning. And with the advent of AI, I must say the last year or so, been on the exploration of how AI can enable everything we do internally within the data value chain, the data delivery organization that we lead, and then also prepare ourselves from getting the data ready for AI and AI use cases. So a lot of partners within PepsiCo, within the data analytics AI community, and outside as we are on this journey. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Paul?
Thanks. Paul Johnson, VP Engineering at Five Below. I've been with Five Below for about 2.5 years. Before that, I was with Gap Inc. I'm West Coast based. I was there for about 8 years. At Five Below, I kind of own everything. We're a much smaller company. I did own data and analytics at Gap plus supply chain, so I have a lot of experience in the supply chain space. At Five Below, we're all about everything $5 and under, right? And that is how we run our IT organization as well. We're very budget conscious. I work very, very closely with my vendors, including Databricks. I talk to them weekly. We've got a set of use cases that we're going to execute a hackathon with them on to cover AI. I'm doing the same thing with Microsoft, other vendors. So for those of you who don't, I would very much encourage you to work with these folks. They eat and breathe this. You're probably seeing some really fantastic presentations here this week. Don't do it by yourself. There's no reason to. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And much like PepsiCo and I think anybody else, data is king. So we're trying to make sure we've got clean data, we've got good pipelines, we're monitoring things adequately, so we can actually have great agents actually work with that. And we've got about 8 different use cases we're trying to execute against now, but appreciate you having me here, and I'm looking forward to the combo.
Great. Thank you. Manish?
Thank you. My name is Manish Agarwal. I'm leading the enterprise data and analytics at Skechers. I'm not sure how many of you know how many shoes we sell in a year. Any guesses? Last year, we sold 297 million pairs of shoes. So you can imagine, and as we know, data is the new oil. So data is very important for us. And my journey, I started at Skechers 3.5 years back. And before that, companies like Deloitte, Oracle, MySpace, Nortel Networks, Hertz, and MGM. So I'm doing this for the last 25 years and gotten a chance to work on each and every technology you can think of within the data and analytics. Even built one of the largest data warehouse in the world at 1.7 petabyte, ingesting 7 billion rows. Early adopter of Tableau, Business Objects, Cognos, SAS, these kind of things. And even at Hertz, when I was at Hertz, there were 1 million cars. So we started ingesting IoT data from 100,000 cars. So those kind of use cases I've executed, built a recommendation engine, pricing engine, and now here at Skechers. When I started, we started with a 8 or 9 people team, and now we are 80 plus. So in 3.5 years with all the vendors' help, my team, we have done a great job. Like we have a single source of truth, we have launched CDP, we have a platform, we have a BI, we are doing AI, ML, and also working on the Gen AI use cases.
Great. Well, thank you for that. So looking forward to our conversation today. And Rob had a lot of things to talk about in terms of how AI is affecting experiences and how we're interacting with customers. But if we take a step back and look at it from a macro level, there's a lot of trends that are changing. There's a lot of the way people are buying through which channels. How do you tailor offers through all of that? So how are you all using real-time and AI to be able to meet the customers where they are? And what kind of impacts are you seeing both to that customer experience and to growth from that? So any of you want to start off with that one? Or
Okay. So as everybody, like if you go to the business, what's the 2 things they will ask you? They will say, I need access to everything, and I need it in near real time. So in our case, we started on that journey last year, and we told them that, okay, exact real time is not possible, but near real time, we can make it happen. So 2 of the use cases where business is using the data in near real time, one is the e-commerce sales. So that refreshes every hour, and where they can see like what is happening, and then they can personalize their offers and do whatever they need to do with the segmentation, audience list, and whatnot. Second one, as I mentioned, we sell 297 pairs, so it is very important and a lot of processing, a lot of pallet opening, a lot of boxes, all that processing happen at the data centers, now at our distribution centers. So it is very important for our operation folks to understand how many people do they need every week. So that data refreshes every 15 minutes, so that helps them to understand what's the reports capacity they need. So those are the two use cases that we have implemented in near real time.
Yeah, I think just also to give a sense of the scale of what we're talking about. So PepsiCo products are sold in 200 countries and territories around the world, about 1 billion plus servings a day. So that's kind of from a scale standpoint. So, taking a little bit of a liberty around real time, but I mean, if you think about the real time aspect of ensuring that we have a pulse on where the consumer is going today, right? And so clearly from a social listening standpoint, particularly with the advent of AI and sentiment analysis, you can do it that much faster to say, what are the trends? So the consumer is becoming perhaps more experiential, more functional oriented. People are more portion control conscious, et cetera, et cetera. So what are these trends, and how do we sort of stay ahead of that in terms of the decisions we're making from a product portfolio standpoint or innovation standpoint? So that's important. The second thing is also in terms of how we're engaging with consumers, right? So clearly, that's another area of focus from an AI standpoint in terms of can we, again, as Rob was talking about, there's a lot of effort on trying to personalize essentially the consumer engagement. And obviously our marketing campaigns trying to be as targeted as possible as well.
I think on our side, like I said, we've got a few use cases in flight now. Just like everyone else a couple years ago, we went really hard into inbound and outbound supply chain kind of dashboards, like looking at those kind of KPIs that update on a very regular basis, think about the same about every 15 minutes or so. Our SKU store mix is pretty crazy, so from a data perspective, I think that was kind of the hardest part. So we're approaching 2,000 stores. We have about 15,000 SKUs. So I don't know how many of you have been in one of our stores, but a lot of our stuff's about this big. So we have a lot of store space. We have a lot of SKUs. So keeping up with that and then building on top of that, as an example, we're working on a use case now where we're looking at out of stocks. Like, how do we predict that something's going to be out of stock? When is it going to come in again? When's the next PO coming in? How is it selling in a certain area? Should we allocate more to a different place depending on a number of items, whether it's weather, whether it's trends? And we're pretty big on socials. So if you look up like hashtag Five Below on your favorite social media platform, you'll probably get a lot of hits. That's all organic. Like, we literally have like 2 people at the organization that work in social. So that kind of just grows on its own, and getting those signals like back to our teams, whether it's marketing or whether it's the buyers, becomes pretty important. And then last but not least, on the trend side, and this one's a little bit more of an edge case for us and something new, how do we actually link into those systems without somebody having to go and look and track and kind of figure out like where things are actually going, what's going to be big? Is Lilo and Stitch going to be really big this summer? Clue, it really was. So we made a good bet there. But a lot of those are bets, and that could be hard in the trend space. So can we use AI to help us make better bets with more data? And more data is always going to make it better, right? I think we're all data engineers. We all understand that. So we're trying to get after that because a lot of it, historically, at Five Below has been just gut feel. It's crazy. Like, I started there, and again, Gap was very different, but at Five Below, I asked one of the buyers when I started, like, how do you find out what the good stuff is, like what you're going to buy? She's like, I go and I follow people around Target for about an hour and a half. It's not a joke. Like, she really did, and she found stuff that way, and some big things launched because of that. But we can get better at that, and doing that at scale, like that doesn't scale, obviously. So how can we get folks the data to actually do that and have them interact with it so I don't have to build kind of a dashboard from scratch? Something I've been saying around the organization, which I think most folks here believe as well, is like BI reporting is dead. Like, we don't need to create any more dashboards from scratch. Like, creating something in Power BI, or if I'm asked to like create a dashboard and it takes 8 weeks, in 8 weeks it's too late. They should just be able to go ask the data, like, what's going on in Texas this month that's selling really well, and they should just be able to just go take care of it. They shouldn't have to have me like generate some report or dig through a dashboard that has like 150 KPIs in it, so they have to do all the filtering, or they have to train the next person how to use it. It just becomes just very tedious. You should just bring the data where the users are, right? It should be very easy to do that.
Oh, thanks for that. And two of you, so Manish, you and Amlan both kind of touched on personalization, and so that's not something that's new. It's been going on, but with AI and with Gen AI and agents specifically, personalization takes on a new kind of a new reality to it of like how personalized that can get. Like, how are you all, and Paul, like how are you all looking at using AI and agents to be able to deliver a more personalized experience to your consumer, to your customer?
I can start. So I think one of the first things, Matt, which we have done is focused on the data infrastructure, in particular around getting a CDP. Rob touched upon that, and that was foundational. If you don't have rich data and a 360 view of the consumer, then it's hard to do anything beyond that. And when we talk about AI, I think we just naturally gravitate to Gen AI. We often refer to traditional AI now. It seems kind of odd, but think of things like machine learning and prescriptive capabilities that have been there. So we've been leveraging traditional AI, ML, et cetera, to come up with clustering techniques, to come up with metrics and analytics around customer lifetime value, right? So how valuable is a customer over consumer over a period of time, and so on and so forth. And those then allow us to then be able to personalize that much faster. So now with the advent of Gen AI, and in particular agentic AI, and frankly, we're all, as we were hearing from Rob and throughout the conference, I think we're still sort of getting prepared. Hopefully, the inflection is going to come soon, but I think we're getting ready for it, where some of these capabilities in terms of being able to truly be able to come up with very customized, personalized content and in real time, and then be able to, through the marketing platform, be able to go and reach out to the consumers from an omni-channel standpoint is going to become reality. So that's kind of how I see the progression from sort of what traditional AI is giving to what augmentation Gen AI and then in particular agentic AI is going to bring.
Yeah, similar to what Amlan said, 3.5 years back, we also started on the same journey, made a conscious effort to bring all the data which is customer related from all the channels, whether retail, wholesale, digital, and then e-commerce, and then also like Salesforce Service Cloud, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Google Analytics. So all that data we brought into Databricks Lakehouse. So kudos to Databricks, they provided a platform. And then from using the data set, we have rolled out ActionIQ CDP, so that's where all the secret sauce happen. And that helps us to identify and see the churn ratio, affinity, similar to Amlan, customer lifetime value, and all that. And that helps our marketing team to build the right audience list and target the right users, because you don't want to be sending a same offer to the same person twice or thrice. And it is very important, like if you are spending money on your advertising, then it has to be spent wisely. So all this is helping, and behind the scene, yeah, AI is being used for identify and predict the churn ratio, forecast the wallet size and whatnot. And from the Gen AI, and now means machine learning is also part of another branch of AI, and now everybody's talking Gen AI. So first of the things which is happening in the tool is you can type the query and say, can you create an audience list for this, and it creates that, or it generates the description of a product. So those kind of things are happening.
I think at Five Below, what was interesting is we built, the first CDP Five Below ever had was actually built on top of Databricks. Most of that was because we had the platform, and like I said, like from a budget perspective, very budget conscious, so we didn't go out and buy a CDP. That's been very beneficial because we could plug it into kind of almost anything. I think one thing I really like what Rob said is when you have all your data in one place and you have something there that you can just plug into, and if you want to swap it out, you don't have to like scrap it and like kind of re-architect it from scratch. So that's been really helpful. And Databricks is also the hub at Five Below for all the interchange of data between all of our different vendor systems, whether it's the WMS on Manhattan side or O9 for MFP or RMS on the Oracle side. So everything kind of makes a stop along the way there. And then from a personalization perspective, digital is less than 3% of the business of Five Below. We're still really blowing up just from a pure brick and mortar perspective. So we're using it a lot to help customers shop now. So I go into a party, it's a 9-year-old, and they really like, I don't know, Bluey, or they really like Lilo and Stitch, or so we can kind of put stuff together. We could do the same thing for like party bags. We're a big shop for that. So if you have 12 kids coming to a party, like, can we put something together for you really quickly at a low price and just have it ready for you when you walk in the door? From a marketplace perspective, that's been super successful, even more so than ship from store or like e-com, people wanting it ready or taken to them from like an Uber or a DoorDash or something. So we've been using all of those to kind of track our customers and kind of be where they are and give them like kind of what they need, but also watch the trends across a certain region to do that. So it's been super interesting.
And I'll come back to you on like kind of a follow-up question. So each of you were talking about, 200 plus countries and territories and the number of stores. You just mentioned, rattled off a lot of different systems that you're integrating and the number of stores that you all have. So how are you all taking all of this fragmented data and then not just bringing it together, but providing insights for product or for marketing or like how are you making the data into insights?
I can try. That fantastic question. The answer is it's really hard. So as I said, like previously, it was all like dashboards and Power BI reports, and Databricks, at least at Five Below, it was brought in to do ETL, which I have to be honest, like when I first joined, I said, what are you guys doing? Like, why wouldn't you just kind of write this from scratch or use something else? Just use Java or use something simple. But they wanted to build the data platform, which, from a kind of forward-looking perspective, a strategy perspective, it was super smart. And so every single thing goes onto Kafka, goes through what we call our enterprise data platform, the EDP, and it gets dumped off into the lakehouse. And then it goes on its merry way, whether it's Manhattan needing something from Oracle, or Oracle needing something from Bamboo Rose, or Bamboo Rose needing something from '09, and it kind of all travels through there. And one thing we came late to the party with, which we're just now finishing, is Unity Catalog, which gives us all the lineage associated with that. So we can gather even more insights to see what's going on and what's changing and make things more efficient to kind of get ahead of all these different agentic AI stuff we're talking about, whether it's out of stocks or whether it's personalization or whether it's onboarding, or one of my favorite new ones is we're taking the data around tickets that come into our system for stores when stuff breaks. And separately, we keep track of every piece of equipment in a store, right? Whether it's the register, we actually have bill handlers. We have about 9 registers that are mostly self-checkout. We actually have bill handlers. We take coins, we take bills. People like to give their kids like $10 and go spend your $10 and figure it out. And as that stuff kind of goes across time and age, we start seeing tickets come in. But we have all that data so we can figure out when something might break, so we can replace it before it might break just by looking at trends, and then we can stop a register from being down in a store when it's busy, because people will walk away, right? Especially if they have a kid that's unhappy, or I'm sure you've all at one point or another taken your kid out of a store because they were misbehaving or not having a good time. So that's a big deal to us. We have to get them through the line as quick as possible. So, it's bringing that all together and having the data in one place was so important.
Yeah, so Matt, that was a brilliant question, but one of the things we made a conscious effort, because a lot of time we see companies are struggling, and even in Rob's slide, that 1 and 2, that foundation is very strong. So one of the conscious decisions we made 3.5 years back, that we need to have a single source of truth. And we decided that that has to be Databricks Lakehouse. So right now, data from whatever data the company somebody needs is coming into Lakehouse, and right now it is coming from almost 60 to 70 systems. So we have built that single source of truth in the Lakehouse. And then I may have a different opinion in terms of what Paul is saying, that we don't need dashboards and all that, because you still need it, but you don't need, like, I worked at another company where we have 6,000 reports and dashboards. So that's a lot. So here, right now, we have reached around 70, 75, and my target is to keep it around 100 plus minus, because if you go maybe over 200, then you are misusing the insights and data you have. So that's the one way we are providing the insights to our business stakeholders. And second thing, which we just finished last month, and we are going live with one of the LOB, planning to go live this week, this month is Databricks Genie, AI BI Genie. So if you can think of, when we talk about Gen AI, one of the things even Paul is talking about us, the question, get the answers. So that's what we are trying, that we want to get the data in the hands of business users so that they can ask questions and get the information back within seconds versus relying on our team to build a dashboard and do different things. Dashboard serves a different purpose when you are doing deeper analysis, when you are doing a planning, when you are doing want to forecast and see your business in a different timelines and time series and whatnot. So that's where it helps. But going forward, we are launching Databricks AI BI Genie so that users can be self-sufficient.
Yeah, so real quick, similar themes. Obviously, as I mentioned, we are a centralized organization. One of the reasons we are a centralized organization is the organization realized that given the scale and spread of PepsiCo, it was incredibly important to sort of have this centralized data foundation. So we have one enterprise foundation, data foundation, that we're on a journey to build over the last several years. Obviously, Databricks is a core part of that capability. And the idea is really driving use cases across the value chain, right? So this data foundation has data from every domain. I talked about the CDP and the use cases that it is enabling. Similarly, on the sales and go-to-market side, there are several use cases, including ML-based use cases around suggested order for our sales reps to place orders. Again, using ML algorithms that are surfaced within their selling apps and things of that kind. If you go to supply chain, there are similar analytical capabilities that are being built in. So, the spectrum of insights really goes from, simple, call it dashboards to more and more in terms of either predictive models, analytical models, leveraged or surfaced through apps. And increasingly now with obviously Gen AI, how do you sort of get into more of a conversational sort of an interface? So that's, I would say, the journey we're on.
Just quick follow-up question on you mentioned about rolling out Genie. How long did you all pilot before you decided to roll it out?
Yeah, so that's another thing. We want to be quick and agile. So our pilot was 4 weeks. And it's very important that we prepared and come up with the criteria and things that we want to test. As you can understand, one of the things everybody worried about Gen AI is the security. So we had a lot of conversations with your team. We were meeting multiple times a week. So our pilot was 4 weeks. And by that time, we have a good idea like what needs to be done in Genie, what's possible, and what is not. So that's the reason when we are starting, as you can imagine, Skechers is so big, we have multiple line of businesses. But this second phase of this rollout is going to be just with one line of business with limited scope, starting with 20, 30 users. And then we will keep expanding and adding more data set and other things.
Fantastic. Rob talked a lot about, and has anybody heard of this thing called agentic AI? I checked into Marriott and it was like, they were talking about it. But when you think about that, what does that mean for how do you think that's going to evolve your customer interactions, in the next, say, 12 months?
It is hard to say because as you can imagine, 6, 7 months or a year back, nobody knew about agentic AI, and now everybody is just talking about agentic AI and nothing else. And even Gen AI has become something in the past. So it's hard to say, but one of the things I can think of, let's say if agentic AI can help customer to identify what would be a proper shoe size, what would be a proper style, what should be next they should look into. So I think those kind of services, agentic AI, if it can provide them, will really help. But in our case, because I consider anybody who is using my group services as my customer. So what we are doing, as you can imagine, when you have hundreds of thousands of jobs running every day to process the data and 8,000 monitors running to monitor the quality of the data and dashboards and whatnot. So things become very laborious and time consuming. So that's where we just finished the pilot of prototyping how we can use agentic AI so that when people are chatting in a Microsoft Teams, it can summarize what happened, it can create the root cause analysis, it can search the Confluence for the solutions. So all that we are planning and expanding on that and would be productionizing in the next month or so.
Yeah, I think Manish hit the nail on the head. Like for us, in the next 12 months, it's all about making people within the organization more efficient so they can spend more time doing what's going to be for our end customers. You know, most of that I think is doing stuff for internal customers and making them faster, better, stronger, so they can think about that next trend, so they're not like going through the same motions through the same spreadsheet over and over again. So I think Rob said something about the simple things or low-hanging fruit. That's really important, but that also is great because it teaches your team and they get confident about doing things with agentic AI, right? If you try to go like shoot for the fences, it's great, but you know, I say all the time, we're a retailer, we sell hard candy and stuffed animals, right? So we don't need to do that right now. Like let's do the easier things, learn, get better, and then when the business is really ready, we'll be ready, right? We'll have the experience and we can really act and we can help our end customers.
Yeah, I think, you know, we are definitely highly focused on exploring agentic AI across the value chain, right? And I think internally focused efficiency sorts of use cases, of course, right? We're looking at almost everything that we're doing within the SDLC as everybody else is to say, okay, where is the automation capability? How do you use Gen AI, et cetera, et cetera. But I think from an agentic standpoint, every single, you know, be it personalization, consumer engagement, any of the unlocks within marketing, for example, content creation, all of those are being looked at in earnest. And I would imagine, you know, just with the speed at which the space is maturing, it's probably going to become that much more a reality across the value chain. But I think, you know, I still want to sort of bring back one other piece, which is, again, on the data. So there's a lot of emphasis from a particularly on the agentic AI standpoint, because now you're talking about agents that have the capability of perception and reasoning and so on. So how good your metadata is, right? So we have a tremendous amount of focus on data governance. So I think that is going to get even more heightened because the quality of your metadata, and that then is going to drive your semantic layer, which is going to be critical for agents to then become autonomous. So I feel like, you know, there are certain things there's a lot of buzz about, absolutely justifiably so. But I think as Rob was mentioning earlier, there's certain basics if we don't have those in place. So in my opinion, you know, the companies that are going to be AI advantaged and AI differentiated are also going to be the companies that are going to be data and metadata differentiated and mature.
Yeah, I think what Amlan said, that's very important. Like we all gravitate towards the shiniest thing, which is Gen AI and agentic AI. But people forget about if your data quality is not good, you are not going to be successful. So that's another thing. And now, like you're talking about AI and all that, so we launched and rolled out data observability software where 8,000 monitors run every day, which monitors for accuracy, availability, and all the other components of data quality. So it's very important whether you're using for any use case, whether it's for dashboards, for AI, for even machine learning AI, Gen AI, your data needs to be good. And if your data is not good, your customer, which is your end users, they're not going to trust you, and that's how you build the trust.
So it looks like we have time for one more question. I'll split it into to maybe two. You know, earlier, Manish, you had talked about, you know, how you're rolling things out and being, you know, how you're scaling a new capability with Genie. And Amlan, you talked about how PepsiCo's gone through a reorganization to be able to set yourself up for innovation and kind of scaling globally. So maybe we'll start with you. When you look at that from a global scale, how do you think about the cultural changes that have to exist to be able to start to, you know, the technology is one thing, but like talk a little bit about like how you're approaching the cultural changes.
Yeah, you know, so I think it's a really good question, by the way. You know, what are those enablers? In my opinion, the organization operating model is going to be critical. You know, a company like ours, year and a half, you know, our leadership took the decision to create a strategy and transformation organization, which brings together all of the technology capabilities organization, one of which I sit in, which is data analytics AI. There is infrastructure, there's InfoSec, our digital products organization, et cetera, along with the business transformation organization, and also the BU-based transformation organizations, all within the same org. So what does that mean? That means that use cases, digital use cases, transformation use cases, et cetera, are prioritized, right? And then the solutioning time, the time it takes to come up with a technical solution and a conceptual architecture is that much more streamlined and that much more cohesive, as opposed to the ping pong that typically would happen in siloed organizations. So the beauty of this operating model and this organization model is you have cut through that time, the lag that happens in a typical organization. The second piece, as I talked about, is a big enabler is the investment, the multi-year investment in the data foundation. We have still ways to go, but I feel like the work that we have done is putting us in a place to leverage AI that much faster. The third thing is a very conscious approach that we're taking to AI strategy, and very particularly in terms of an AI-first approach. So any use case that is coming up through a governance process, the question is being asked, why not AI? So I think that's been an enabler. And at the same time, we also made sure that there are appropriate guardrails in terms of AI safety through a responsible AI framework. And last but not least, all of this doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? So there's partners like yourself from a technology side and other partners, along with our services partners. So I feel like that this ecosystem of partners is absolutely critical. So op and organization, data foundation, having an AI strategy, AI first mindset, and then having the right ecosystem of partners.
Yeah, so I think one of the thing is a lot of time what happen, companies, they struggle and business loses trust because they have seen in the past that they have worked with different groups and nobody has delivered. So few of the changes we made is we become customer obsessed, and for me, anybody who's, as I mentioned earlier, anybody who's using our product is my customer. So I built an organization called Data Product Management, and they are customer-facing organizations, so they understand what customer needs, what training they need, what product they need, what data do they need. So they handhold them and they train them. So that's how we are building the trust. Second thing is speed to market. Like as Amlan also said, that it is very important. So what we have done, we have adopted the agile methodology, and we are delivering a new feature, new product, or new capability every 4 weeks. Because our data foundation is strong, so we can do those things. So speed to market, and then like what customer understands, and then the data quality. These three things, if you can overcome that, then you will be able to win the trust of your customer, and adoption will increase.
Any other thoughts?
I think Five Below, the biggest thing is bringing everybody along for the training and the whole AI ride. I really like the concept of AI first. Like we try to think of that with new projects now for sure. We ask our vendor partners if they have anybody else doing something similar with AI. But we're training them. We're not doing it like in a vacuum with just IT. We're actually doing showcases. We're doing, like I said, hackathons, making sure everybody's involved and understanding of what we're trying to do. And to make it more about learning and less about having to solve the business problem right away. Because I think the other things come once people have kind of the tool set and they understand the mindset. And I could really see that happening. Like the way it's accelerated just in the last like 6-8 weeks even has been pretty substantial. So super excited.
That's a super important point. I think that raising the overall digital quotient of an enterprise, particularly the knowledge worker pool, is going to be absolutely critical.
Well, great. Well, we're at the end of our time. So first of all, thank you for investing the time to be able to share your insights and kind of where you're on the journey. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for allowing Databricks to be part of the journey with you and working with you. So with that, we would thank you all for being here. Hopefully it's been very insightful. We've got a great conference ahead of us. I hope you're excited about that. And there are free drinks and networking downstairs next to the Rivian. So thank you very much for coming. Take care.